All right. Well, good afternoon. I hope I hit the right button and got us hooked up right. I'm looking over. We always set. We good?
Mm-hmm.
So, good afternoon. Again, I'm Steve Drew. It's good to sit down with you all in our Chief Chat live Facebook streaming. So I'm getting better. I'm working out all the systems and the kinks, and I'm getting better. I didn't shut anything off or disconnect us yet. So, but the hour is young. So again, what I wanted to do is I just wanted to sit down and have a conversation with the community about some of the things going on in the department to update you. Or kind of use the same structure. We'll talk a little bit about our crime numbers in the community, of what's going on, where we stand. It's a good way for us to evaluate: are we doing the right things, or do we need to change some of the strategies that we have, and how do we look so far year to date in crime. And we'll talk about some of the things that are currently going on, that are upcoming as we get ready to start the new school year, and then of course, we did have some issues about over the last week, and a couple incidents last week. We had multiple SWAT call-outs and some interactions in the community that I know some people have called in and asked about. So we can address some of that. I don't want to go too much into some of the cases particulars, but I do want to be as open and transparent as I can to talk a little bit about some of the things going on in the department. So let's first talk about, so again, with these meetings, I know sometimes it's hard for individuals to get out and with everything going on and how busy lives are today. It's hard sometimes to get away meetings. I really enjoy the face-to-face interaction, so I'm still information out. So starting with our crime numbers. So today, as of August 18th, as of Monday, that's when our new crime numbers come out. The city sits at a 10% decrease in overall crime. So if the FBI called today, we would share that our department has a 10% decrease overall in crime. We're down 12% in property crime, and we're down in every category in our violent crime except domestic violence. That's a crime that continues to jump on us, and we're going to talk a little bit about domestic violence. That's an issue that's near to me, and I'll tell you, out of our 15 homicides that we've had this year, 4 of them are directly a result of domestic violence. This time last year, the city had 17 homicides. Today we have 15, so that's a 11% decrease in our homicides. We're down 31% in our rapes. We're down 27% in our robberies, but our aggravated assaults are up by 25%, and that is related. A lot of that is related to our domestic violence. It's not our shootings. We had 64 shootings this time last year. As of Monday, we had 46. So that's 20 less, 21, 22 less shootings that we've had this year than last year. 20 some lives less affected, families that haven't been affected by gun violence. As we continue to take guns off the street in our city, trying to do some proactive measures. This time last year, we had taken about 400 firearms off the street, 407. So far this year, we've taken 506. That's 100 over where we were this time last year, and I believe that's the proactive, aggressive work. I believe that the citizens are getting more and more involved with what's going on in their communities and their neighborhoods, and we're getting good information from businesses, organizations, churches, residents, our neighbors, looking out for each other. I see more and more, and the reason I say that is that when I look at the type of arrests that are making and how quick those arrests are coming, the closure rates, I believe wholeheartedly that citizens are taking back their neighborhoods, and they're not going to tolerate some of the things that have been going on. But I feel good with the direction we're going. On our burglaries, that's our homes that are broken into. It's a very, very hard crime. We had a decrease last year, and I was really concerned about that this year as we move forward. That's a hard crime to penetrate. We have 101 less burglaries to homes than we had this time last year. So we have a 23% decrease in burglaries. Our larceny is down by 9%. Vehicle theft is down by 23%. But if the FBI called today and we reported our numbers, the FBI, we would report to the FBI that we are 10% down in crime this year compared to the same time in 2018. That is a direct result of officers' interactions, community policing, the hard work for detectives in closing cases. Of our 15 homicides that we've had this year, 8 have already been closed. That's well over 50%. So we continue to push there. And we have good leads in 3 or 4 other of the homicides that we've had. There's still some that we'd like to have some help on, and some more people coming forward. But the detectives, they're working really well. Did get a little concerned about them. They've had a long weekend, but they are professionals. I met with them yesterday, and they're just doing an outstanding job. But I do think it's important to give a little bit of background on where we sit crime-wise for the city. Sometimes I go to meetings and I ask individuals, what's your perception? What does anybody know the crime? What do you think? And sometimes sometimes the numbers are so far that we've never been that high in crime. When I hear people, maybe we've had 60 or 70, 80 homicides this year so far. That's never happened in this city. We've never had that number of homicides. We average, let's go the last 5 years. We average about 94 shootings a year, and we average about 25 or 26 homicides a year over the next 5 years. Now, my goal is to decrease both those numbers this year and continue to decrease those with strategies that we're putting, the way we restructured the department, and revamping things we're bringing in, new strategies and opportunities that we're putting in place. But the perception is that the crime is much higher than it is, that the shootings are much more than they are, that the homicides are much more than they are, and that's just not the case. And I understand that sometimes perception is considered reality, but that doesn't deter us from putting the real facts and real evidence-based out there of what they actually are. So I continue to try to look at ways to get the accurate information to the community. I think it's important that citizens know how we're doing and where we stand, and that's one of the reasons I want to post these on our website and get the numbers out when we have these chats and conversations. So I want people to know what's really going on here in Newport News. There's a lot of great things. There's been a couple things here recently in the summer that have caused us some issues, but overall, crime is down in this city, shootings are down, and homicides are down. But we got to continue to push and push and push, get the message out, and never settle, right? Just because we have some decreases, that's not good enough. We have to continue to go and try to find new and innovative ways, think outside the box, and be creative. So first, let me say, Debbie, thank you for joining us. Jamie, JP, thanks for being here. I appreciate you guys chiming in today. Thank you for all we appreciate. Debbie, thank you. That means a lot. I believe that. Thank you. I believe that it's a lot to do with your community outreach. Jamie, I think you're exactly right. I think that community outreach plays a huge role in what we do in community policing. I think it is trust and transparent. When you ask someone to do something for you, it goes much further if people believe in you, if they trust in you, if you're open and honest. And I really believe wholeheartedly that if people believe you care about them, if they feel that you're genuine and sincere and that you care about them, they're more apt to let their guard down and work with you and talk to you. And I think that's what we're trying to do as an organization, that we want the same thing that people want in their communities, their neighborhoods, their businesses, their churches. We want a safe community. I was talking with Howard Gwynn, and he says it, the best place, Newport News, right? We want it to be the best place to live, work, and play, to raise a family, people to come here and stay here. And I'll tell you, Newport News is a great city. There is a lot of positives going on. Not only when we talk about our crime reduction, when we talk about how the city is growing, new industry, new labs that are coming in, C&I getting ready to revitalize downtown. There is a lot of really, really good movement going on in our city. But we've got to do a better job of marketing that and getting that message out there so people know our success story. I just think that's very, very important. So, Jamie, I believe that community policing is a big part of that in our outreach, and I want to continue to find new ways to improve and push that. Thank you, dedicated. JP, thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate that. Jay, and any help in Lucas Creek? We hear gunshots here a lot. So, Jay, I would ask you, if you're hearing those gunshots, to make sure you're calling and reporting them. It allows us. Sometimes people get frustrated. Well, we hear the gunshots, we call, and nothing happens. Well, it's not just that. I wish it was that easy. If we knew where the shots were coming from, who was firing them, but I don't get frustrated. Well, you know what? I shouldn't say that. It's okay to get frustrated, but please keep calling. It allows us to track a time frame, a day of the week, to reposition officers. It helps us with our deployment, so we can go back to that computer system. When are the calls coming in? What's the situation? What's happened there? How many calls have we had over the last 2 weeks? How many calls we had in the last month? And we can do some different things about deployment and strategy. But I'm really hoping to be able to pinpoint, are the shots coming from residents? Is it vehicles that are driving by? Someone on a street corner? But please continue to call in. We can pass that on to the precinct captain to make sure that we're putting some pressure out there. But the more and more information we have, the better we can do. And so please continue to call, and we'll work through that together. I want to talk a little bit about things that have gone on this summer. We had our second round of our Police Athletic League with basketball. We partnered with the Boys and Girls Club. We did We had middle school, young men and women. We had boys and girls clubs from up and down the peninsula. Up and down Newport News. And we integrated teams this year. We didn't just have neighborhood-based teams. This year we had tryouts and we grouped people together. So Neighborhood X is playing on the same team with individuals from Neighborhood Y. People playing together. Athletics, I think, sometimes break down barriers and it brings people together. And I think we had a great league. It was a great time. We had officers coaching those young people, partnering with the Boys and Girls Club. Not only do we have a trophy for the individual who won the team that won the league, the tournament, we had a nice closeout, right? We had an in touch with Pastor Maxwell where we had kind of the playoffs and the championship there. But we also had a sports banquet at the end of this year, right? At Pastor Maxwell at New Beach Grove Baptist Church, we used a community room there. We had a nice banquet. We gave out some awards. But not awards for who scored the most points and not awards for what team won the tournament, right? We gave out some awards about sportsmanship, about behavior, good attitude. There's a lot more going on in these programs that we do with youth than just basketball or just baseball or football or whatever it may be. It's the interaction, it's mentorship, it's officers getting to know the youth in our city, it's the youth getting to know the police department, that we care about them, we care about individuals, and I say it when I interact with you all the time. You all matter to me. What you all do matters to me. And I want to have more and more interaction. I'm going to break a little bit of news about a new school program that we're going to have starting in September. But I want the youth to know in the city that I care, that we care of the department, and we're trying to find new and better ways to interact with youth and bring them to the conversation, interact with them. Like that's a motto for our young adult police commissioners. Bring youth to the conversation. But it was a great way to cap off our basketball league, and I hope the young men and young women, we had 4 girls teams this time, that they enjoyed it. I know that the officers did, and I can tell you that I did. So after basketball ended, we started our Kickball League. We've been doing that on Tuesdays and Thursdays at South Morrison Field there. As that comes to a close throughout the summer, school gets ready to start. I've had a lot of fun out there watching those kids run around and play kickball and get energetic. We've used our outreach workers and our officers to coach teams and interact again with the Boys and Girls Club. They're a great partner. And all this is possible through partnerships, right? So the police department, the Boys and Girls Club, and our great police foundation that works with different individuals, agencies, and groups that donate money to the police department, and then we reinvest that in training, development, interaction with our youth in our community, with our canines, things that we're trying to do to just interact with our citizens, to make Newport News, right, the best place to live, work, and play, to raise a family, for people to stay here and to come to our city. But the Police Foundation does a great job, and I want to thank all those that play a role in donating or giving to the Police Foundation and the Police Department. That means a lot, and those go a long way for things that we're trying to do in the department and certainly in our communities and primarily with our youth. Some of the other things, we have Cover the Cruiser tomorrow. 100% of the donations go to Special Olympics. We did this, the first time that I saw it was last year. We've done it in the past, but I got to see it last year. I think they're going to use my car again. So I had a good time going out to the Wawa last year. This year, again, it'll be tomorrow at 10 o'clock till 2 p.m. So if you're out and about, I ask you to please come by just to say hello. But from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Wawa's there on J. Clyde Morris Boulevard. It's a really fun event. It's a good event. I hope to be out there and interact a little bit and give some people a hard time, interact with our citizens and our youth. But if you're out, again, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, and 100% of the donations that are raised will go towards Special Olympics. That's something that we really enjoy interacting with. We had a great event last year, and I hope people will come out and interact a little bit this year and come by and say hello, have a cup of coffee, but just for our citizens and officers and citizens to interact and spend some time together. One of the other, let me make sure I don't miss too many of these here. Let's see. I think you're doing a great job. Keep up, Barbara Upper. I really appreciate that. we're asked for a lot of prayers to come out for officers and officers' family, but also, for individuals that lost some loved ones over the tragic event that happened this weekend. It affected a lot of families, and some of those events took place in a business community, in a residential apartment complex. We were out walking in both yesterday, and I really appreciate that. We'll take every prayer that you offer up. We will take, and that means a lot. I need to hear that. Officers need to hear that, and I'm very thankful for those that have come forward and shown their support. It means a lot. I really appreciate it. We had a walk yesterday, and several citizens came out and walked with us. Some brought refreshments and some popsicles out and stuff. It was cool. I had to give Chief Randall a hard time. I think he had 2 or 3. I'm not sure. He won't give me the exact number, but it was a good event. And I think we got good feedback from citizens. Some of the comments we got is it's really, we appreciate the police being here and walking in our neighborhood. We appreciate you talking to us a little bit about what happened here. We heard things. We didn't come outside. But that apartment complex and the residents there have been very, very supportive. And I appreciate them interacting with us as we did our walk yesterday. Kyle, there's an active shooter conference coming up soon, which I think is a great idea. They offer this to businesses as well. So the active shooter conference is coming up at Middle of the Community, which I think is a great idea. I will tell you, there's a couple things. We certainly saw the tragedy that happened in Virginia Beach, and that we've seen play out across our screens throughout the country. I think any training like that opens up and prepares people, gives you some insight, I think is extremely beneficial. Right now, the department is doing that type of training for every employee of our city that works in all the different city agencies. We do a couple of those seminars and trainings for our churches throughout the year. But I think that it would be very beneficial to do something like that for businesses. Maybe we could reach out and talk to those that are interested and put something together. I think that would be a great benefit and a great idea. Jonathan, what could be my first step to enjoy the Newport News Police Department? I think any interaction that you have with us, it's something that we'd like to come in, do a tour of the building. If you'd like to come in and do a community walk with officers, spend some time with officers. We have a lot of Citizens Academy. I think that's probably where you get a lot of insight, where we really expose our department and open the doors and talk about, it's a several-week program, 1 night a week, 2 nights a week, where we share information. You get to interact with detectives, forensics, our canine officers, patrolmen. But yeah, if you choose, there's all kinds of opportunities of ways to interact and do things with the department. And we just kind of pick each other's brains a little bit, and what are you interested in? What would you like to see? What would you like to do? And we'll try to accommodate that. But there's a lot of ways that you can interact with what we do here in the Newport News Police Department. But community events, the Citizens Academy, those are really huge. I think you get a lot out of that. I know that a lot of people will repeat that. Some will go through one of the Citizens Academies, and then 2 or 3 years later they want to do it again. And things do change, so there are some differences, but I think you get a lot out of that. We've been trying to collaborate with over 3 months now. How come our calls never get returned? So, Black Lives Matter. So I'm not sure who that is. I have had some calls with Aubrey, but sometimes schedules get placed in advance, and there's a lot of things that are taking place. And if you look, there's almost something just about going on every weekend and multiple events. So I'm not sure what. I would disagree that calls are getting ignored. I know that I've had several conversations. We have had trouble scheduling some events with Black Lives Matter. I know we did a couple events last year. So we just have to work out those schedules. But there are so many different events that go on in the city that are planned out ahead of time, whether they're races. But I did 3 or 4 events Saturday, not even talking about the homicide and then the police involved shooting that took place later in the afternoon. So I guess just keep calling, but I'm not sure if that's Aubrey who's sending that in. I'm not sure what events you'd like to do, but certainly we'll partner with you and do what we can, but we just got to get it scheduled. And sometimes it has to be scheduled far out, but I'll be glad to partner with. I've had a good relationship in my past department that I was with. So I think saying your calls are getting ignored, I would disagree with that. But it may be hard to schedule some things. They can't just call and say, hey, let's do something next weekend. It doesn't work like that. I've got officers tied up on multiple events. And one of the things I'm really excited to share about is what's getting ready to happen when school starts. But if you call, I commit to you that we'll do something together. And maybe it's something where we just set up a meeting and we come in and sit down face to face and talk a little bit about what's going on. Maybe you can partner with something we already have in place and be a component of that. I would love for you to be at some of the community events that we do. I know that we did that walk last year, but I'd love for you maybe there's already some things that are in place where you can come in and partner with us, or if you want your own event, I'm just not sure what that is. But we can work it out. It'll all work. We have a good relationship with Black Lives Matter, and I've talked to Aubrey several times. Sometimes we just kind of talk about things going on, and so I would look forward to partnering with you. We can make it work. Jeff, does the Newport News Police Department have an FOP that the public can join and support? We do have a fraternal order of police. If you call here, we'll get you some information on it, or I can send you some information back. If you provide a number or an email address, we can send you some information. It's a good, strong group. It's been around for a while here in Newport News, but we do have an FOP, fraternal order of police operation, and they do some phenomenal work. They're very, very great people. We get to interact with them. They just had a big anniversary a couple weeks ago. I got to go out and spend some time, eat some hamburgers and hot dogs and some great food on the grill, and just fellowship with officers, retirees, and citizens who showed up. So we absolutely do, and I think you would enjoy it. It's a fun time to get together, and they do a lot of things where we help with shop with a cop. We take kids shopping and at local stores here, and maybe back to school clothes, and do some things in the community. So yeah, absolutely, and we'd love to have you be a part of that and come visit us. I think I hit everybody. I want to make sure. I really want to do my best, not because sometimes I start going fast and talking about these things that I'm interested in and want to get information out, and I don't see some of the questions. And it's really important for me to be as responsive as I can. So let me just say right now that if I miss one, I've got some assistants here around me that they're going to go back, and they're the ones kicking me under the table saying, hey, look. So I really don't want to be disrespectful, and I don't mean anything. If I miss one, I'll go back and hit it. So as school gets ready to start in September, here's one of the things that's important to me. We have an SRO in Newport News in every high school and every middle school in our city, but I don't feel like we do enough in our elementary schools. And I've been trying to look at some ways to be more interactive with our kids. And I think the earlier we start with working with students, I think we're showing that we care. I want parents to know that we care about our kids in our community. So I had a conversation with Dr. Parker, and there are 24, 25, 26 elementary schools in Newport News. I don't have enough officers to assign one to each school full-time. But what we are going to do starting in September, and the list just got finalized yesterday, that we will have a liaison to every single elementary school in this city. And the requirement is that for 30 minutes a week, a half hour a week, that officer or officers, because what I saw was multiple people signed up for the schools, for the elementary schools, but for 30 minutes a week, just 30 minutes out of the week, that officer has to go by the school and see the kids get on the bus, have some type of interaction, see the kids get off the bus, walk the halls and say hello to the kids at the beginning of the school day, have lunch with the kids in the cafeteria, interact with classes, read stories in the library. But I want this department, I want the men and women of this organization to interact with the youth of our city. I want them to have a number for the principal at that school, and I want the principal to have a number one point of contact for all elementary schools. There's an issue going on. If they'd like to have something with the police department, they have somebody they can call right away. And that's not just patrolmen on the street. That's the chief of police, the assistant chiefs of police, captains and lieutenants. And they can be sworn or civilian. A lot of our dispatchers have showed interest. But I do want officers in uniform interacting with our young students in our elementary schools to start building relationships. So that list is finalized. I'll be sending that list to Dr. Parker today with the officer's number, contact information where they're assigned, and vice versa. We already have the principal assigned to the schools and their contact number, and we're going to be interacting. First week, you'll see us a lot around schools. As we get back, as the school year starts, we're going to have a fantastic year, and I want to be interactive right off the get-go. But I'm really excited. We started to do this last year, and I got about 50 of the schools covered, of the elementaries. But I want an officer interacting with every elementary school, 30 minutes a week, that they're going to go by and have some type of interaction. sometimes 5 minutes, just saying hello to someone. You're building those relationships, those trust. But 30 minutes, I hear they have some pretty good school lunches, and I want to interact a little bit with, I'm a Berenstain Bears guy. I enjoy reading the Dr. Seuss and kids in the libraries there, and I will tell you, you really get close to the youth of this city. You really get close to kids, and I just think it's a great event, great opportunity for us. And I made that commitment to Dr. Parker last year, and we're going to follow through. The list was finalized yesterday, and I'll be emailing that off to him today. So I'm excited about that as we go forward. Stacy, what does one have to do when they have a restraining order and the person that is against keeps doing things, and the police come out numerous times and nothing happens, even when verbal threats were supported? Verbal threats. We support the police 110%, but it's frustrating. Stacy, I completely agree with you. I had a short conversation yesterday with Commonwealth Attorney Howard Gwynn. I met with one of our community walks. I talked to a couple of the domestic violence advocates in our city with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. It is my plan that we have got to do more. We've got to be more proactive. My plan is in October or November to bring on a civilian domestic violence advocate in the Police Department of Newport News. That's one of the new things I want. I've got to find a better way to address domestic violence. We have almost a 99% arrest rate, but I am concerned about what happens in court, and I'm concerned about being proactive. I want to talk to young people, boys and girls in middle schools, in high schools, and colleges. I want to do some more seminars. I want to be very active. When we go on our community walks, I want that domestic violence advocate with us, sharing information, getting information out. I want to be proactive. I want to look at reports of calls that we go for service, and I do some intervention before I have to go back. Maybe even have that advocate show up on calls while we're there. But it's one of the new practices across the country. Our departments are bringing domestic violence advocates on board to give us some better ways and training and looking not only internally, but what can we do different in the community and neighborhoods and individuals that are suffering through this. So your direct question was, if there's a restraining order and you're getting calls, continue to call and let us know about it. There's conversations that we're having now is how do we address some of those issues much quicker. Sometimes it's hard. Well, he or she called, and they said they drove by and said something, but we can continually log that. We can add that in our report notes on the screen that shows up for an officer responding to a call. That there can be, hey, there's been several times that this individual has driven by, said something verbally, made some hand gesture, is going by knocking on the door. We can put all that in our system. But we've got to find a better way. And I appreciate your support, and I understand the frustration. Believe me, of any issue that we have in this city, domestic violence is the number one frustration thing that I have right now. I've seen it affect lives. It's been the result of at least 4 homicides that we've had already. And it impacts people, right? It impacts youth and families. That is probably my number one concern right now of issues going on in our city. And I want to find a better way and more efficient, more proactive way to address it and deal with it. So I understand your frustration, but when those things happen, continue to call us and let us look into it. And I appreciate that comment. I get it. Ms. Carr, I'm glad to see you are so hands-on. Nice to see you out in front of the neighborhoods. Colleen, I appreciate that. I think that's important. I think that's the first sign of getting the message out that you care. And for me, I enjoy interacting with our citizens, our residents, our businesses, our faith leaders, our churches. I enjoy going to the community days and community events and neighborhood watch meetings. I enjoy going to the Boys and Girls Club, interacting with kids. The times I've gotten to go see the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, even the Girl Scouts up in Killing Creek. I've been there a couple times, and they have the best cookies around. You know what I mean? We have a good time. They do their arts and crafts, but we just get to talk and interact. But I enjoy those things, and for me, it kind of helps me get a pulse of citizens. I'd like to interact. I like to put my hand in someone else's hand, and hey, my name is Steve, and if there's what's going on in the neighborhood community, we're here to help. If you see something, to say something. And I think if I'm doing that, and I expect my officers to do that, then I should be doing the same thing. I think that starts from the top of this organization, and I have to set the tone. So that falls on me, and I think it's important for us to get out and interact with our citizens, and And so I appreciate that. I think it really is important in what we do. We challenge you to a flag football game. Oh my gosh. Look, we're not in high school, but I will tell you, be careful throwing those challenges out. I'm just going to say, there might have been a girls softball team that challenged us and talked a lot of trash on Facebook, and then I think we got some apologies after what happened. But we might be able to do that. We might be able to get a little flag football. That might be pretty cool. I know I'll have officers do it. I don't know how good they'll be. And then I always got to look at the report sheets after officers' injuries, twisted ankles and sore joints, but be careful throwing those challenges out. We might be up for that. That'd be good to do, and I appreciate that. We'd have a fun time. Stacy, it's a great plan, but unfortunately, it's not just domestic, but also neighbors who mental issues. Well, Stacy, I wasn't trying to give a complete plan. I was trying to address the issue of domestic violence. Look, at the end of the day, I've got 450 officers here, and we don't all work 24 hours a day, right? You cut that in half, that comes down to 250. Divide that by 3 shifts. You're really talking about 80 officers. And then that's taking out officers that are doing the detective side of the house, the forensic side of the house, the traffic division, canine. So when you start answering calls, I don't have an officer that can be at every location in every neighborhood. You're exactly right. It has to be a community, right? And that's what I'm talking about. It has to be. That's what we did National Night Out that just passed just a few weeks ago, trying to get citizens to look out for each other. Domestic violence, some of those things we don't see. Those things, most of that happens behind closed doors. But neighbors who may see it in the front yard, or who may hear it in an apartment complex above them or below them or beside them, those are the individuals that I need to call, that I'm asking to call and let us know. If they hear something, to say something, I would much rather go. I talked about it a little bit yesterday. I'd much rather go to a house, knock on a door, and it'd be absolutely nothing. Maybe 2 kids watching wrestling, right? And it'd be nothing. Than for someone to hear something and not call, and we're putting up crime scene tape a few hours later. So I can tell you now, I do not believe that the police department can handle all of it. It has to be a concentrated effort. Our businesses, our churches, our schools, neighbors, community organizations. If you see that stuff or you hear that stuff, that you have to let somebody know. And I even say to victims, if anyone out there is suffering issues with domestic violence or abuse, reach out and let someone know. I would love for you to call the police department and let us put some things in place to try to address it, to walk through some steps. And I understand it's hard. I understand it's hard with families and kids. I get it. I do. I've seen the effects that it has on families. I've seen what it can do to even communities. So if there's anyone out there that's suffering, experienced domestic violence, from the bottom of my heart, please let somebody know. Please come forward and talk to us, and we'll work through it together. Stacy, thank you. I appreciate that. Tony, school is about to begin another year, which means buses on the road. Can you give a 10-minute plug on traffic law? A 10 plug on traffic law concerning buses. Thanks for all you do. Tony, it's important. It's funny you just said that. One of the issues that I think is important in this city, not just with school buses, and I know it's relevant with school starting, but it's traffic in this city. We have way too many accidents, way too many traffic infractions, way too much speeding, and too many traffic fatalities for a city our size. That's one of the things that I have an academy class in right now. Matter of fact, they're right down the hallway. There are 40 recruits in that class. And when that class graduates in January, we will have a traffic division. We'll have 8 officers that are dedicated to enforcing traffic laws full time. That would be the number one priority, to reduce speeds certainly on Warwick and Jefferson Avenue, to address, to decrease our traffic fatalities, but also with our school buses, right? When kids get picked up from school and are going home and dropping kids off, all too often we see in street camera footage or bus footage, of cars just zooming by and passing school buses. So I guess the message that you're referring to is that we're not passing school buses, right? When they stop and that bar comes out, that stop sign comes out, that we're stopping a good distance, making sure kids are on and off, and that bus passes on. Even sometimes drivers will even wave vehicles on. I'd rather just wait till that bus moves. But I will tell you, I am so concerned about traffic issues. It's something I've been looking at for a while. Since I've been here, it's just been a year in July. But I believe that the city needs to really focus on traffic enforcement. Our school buses, it's certainly relevant, school getting ready to start, but as running traffic lights, running stop signs, speeding in neighborhoods, especially in neighborhoods where kids are getting off the bus, walking to the bus stop or walking home. That I really want to focus. I've had a couple neighborhoods that have emailed in the last month, and I don't have the traffic division up and running. I have a couple officers that I've dedicated just to focus on traffic, and the response has been tremendous. Calls coming in, emails coming in, hey, this neighborhood, this location, this intersection. I've asked these two officers to focus on and put some time there, and I'll tell you, in about 24 hours, 48 hours, I'm getting emails back where citizens are saying, hey, this made a difference. So when I have the traffic division up and running, it's going to be great. It's going to be a tremendous asset and a new benefit for this organization and our city. But I do want people to be cognizant of kids walking to the school bus in the morning, kids getting off the bus in the afternoon after school events, making sure that we're not passing buses when they stop, that we're stopping a good distance to let kids get on and off, let that bus pull off before you move forward. But we are going to be aggressively addressing that. I've talked with Dr. Parker about that as well. So that's a great point and great idea as we start. It's very relevant as we start school here in just a couple weeks. Judy, let's see. She drew through what you all doing with young people, interacting with it, touching, truly blessed, bringing down strongholds towards police and repairs the gap. Judy, I appreciate that. One of the things that I want to make sure we do is continue to focus on youth in this city. We'll start recruiting in September. We should be up and running in October 1. We'll have, again, our young adult police commissioners. That's a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior from every high school in the city that interacts with our police department Thursday from 3:30 to 5:30. Mentoring programs. We're going to have hard conversations. We're breaking down the barriers between law enforcement and youth. We're going to talk about issues about bullying. We're going to talk about diversity, gun violence. Those teenagers assisted and really put together the youth forums that we did. Last year we did a youth forum at every single high school. I would love to do that again if the schools will allow us to come back and have those conversations. I need to know what the young people of this community, which are our future, right, where we're going to put our investment. I'd like to know how they see their department, how they see their community, their school system, their neighborhoods, what they think we could do better, what are some of their ideas, what are their solutions. I know there's a conversation about officers in schools, should they be there or should they not, conversations about school to prison pipeline, but I don't know if we're asking youth. I know that we talk about it at meetings and forums, adults, but I don't know if we ask youth, how do you feel about an officer in this school? So when we had the youth forums, I asked that question, and I didn't give my opinion. I want to know what they thought, and I will tell you about 98% raised their hands and said that we do want officers in schools, and I asked why, and most I got was for safety and to have interaction, to talk to police officers, but the number one was for our safety. And I just think it's important to ask youth how they feel. I didn't give my opinion one way or the other. I wanted to hear their thoughts. So I think you're right. I think that what we do with youth is very, very important. I talk a little bit about the young adult police commissioners in our high schools, but also at an early age. That's why I wanted to have an officer liaison with every single elementary school this year. I want to do much more with the elementary kids, and primarily I guess it's our middle school and younger teenagers and the Boys and Girls Club. There's 8 of them up and down Newport News strategically throughout our city. We have a really great partnership with them. I want to continue that. I know we've already got plans to be doing some pickup basketball games after school hours a couple days a week in a couple of our schools, and I want to just continue to push that. But in any event that you see this department do, whether it's a promotional ceremony, a graduation ceremony, our memorial service where we remember officers that gave their lives serving our city, our community, anything that we do, a forum, anything at all, you're always going to see, our National Night Kickoff, you're always going to see youth play a role, whether they're singing the national anthem. Destiny Wilson, a senior at Denby High School last year, gave our opening address to our last recruit graduation. Elijah talking about the events that go on in the police department and having conversations with youth in a youth leadership camp. Those things are important to me, whether they're on stage. I had a young man, 19 years old, he reached out to me, and he came and met with me, Mr. Jones, right, Vernon Jones, and he came and met with me and said, Chief, some violence has just been on my heart, and what I see and hear in the communities, I want to talk to you about it. And he was a little nervous, and he had written it out on his phone, and he said, could I just read it to you? I don't want to miss anything. So he reads it to me, and it was right at the end of July, and he reads it to me, and I was really touched. He just poured his heart out. And he said that young people have got to do more. And he said, but I don't know how to get my message out. And I will tell you, he really touched me. So I asked him, I said, if you will come to our National Night kickoff, right, in the kickball games, our National Night kickoff, I'd like you, before the mayor reads a proclamation, that you get up and address the crowd and share that speech that you just wrote. And he did. And I think it just kind of set the tone. It was a young man sharing his heart that the community got to hear, our city leaders and officials and elected officials got to hear, and this police department got to hear. And it meant a lot. He did a great job. But he got up, caught the bus to come down here, waited for me for about an hour to get out of a couple meetings to just sit down. And I will tell you, that young man, I was thoroughly impressed. But I think you're exactly right. Youth are our future, and we're going to continue to focus on youth in this city. Let's see. I talked about Tony. Oh, the 10-second plug. Yeah, no problem. I got it. Tony, I will tell you, you should see some of the text messages I sent. People call me like, we have no idea what you're trying to say, Chief. And it'd be something simple as thank you, and I'm sending like a recipe for something. So I totally get it. No worries, my friend. And I hope that covered what you were talking about. It's all about school safety, looking out for our kids, getting on and off school buses, kids in the neighborhood. We're going to see a lot more of that. I just don't want people to take it for granted, just to be careful and be mindful. Kelly, thank you for joining. I appreciate that. 7 Black Lives. Let me tell you, I have the utmost respect for you all and your organization. I enjoy the conversations we have, and I thank you as well. And I tell you, I look forward to doing an event together. And like I said, it may be something that's already out there that we can just partner on, maybe something you have planned that we can be with. But we definitely will, and I look forward to it. I like the walk that we had last time. I think we even did I think Aubrey did a session. He's much more tech savvy than me, but we talked to some groups out there in cyberspace, and I enjoyed that conversation we had when we were walking together and talking about our city. So we're absolutely in. So we talked about our basketball banquet. We talked about young adult police commissioners. Another thing I want to talk about is 9/11. When I got here last year, some of the other cities had a 9/11 ceremony, and we didn't have that here in Newport News, and that bothered me a little bit. Remember back that fatal day when the Twin Towers were struck in New York, and I just think that changed a lot of the things that we do in law enforcement. It changed a lot of lives of how we look at things in our community, our society, about see something, say something. So I tasked Chief Randall. I'd like to do a ceremony. I think it's important for our citizens. I think it's important for our firefighters, our police officers, our military personnel. We're going to have a 911 ceremony. So on September 11th, it is open to the public at 10 a.m. in front of City Hall. We're going to shut the street down there. It's going to be during the morning. I hope to get it's 45 minutes to an hour. We have a great guest speaker, a true hero. Our assistant city manager, Bo Clayton, is going to be our speaker. Elaborate military career. We went to him and asked him if he would be our speaker, and he graciously accepted. I'm very, very thankful. I look forward to hearing him. It's going to be a good day. But remember what I talked about, youth involved, junior ROTC, young adult police commissioners, young people involved in that ceremony. That's important to me. It sends a strong message to this community. It sends a strong message to the officers that we're going to focus on youth in this department. But it also sends a strong message to the youth of the city that they matter, that they're important, that I want them involved in things going on. On a side note, I was at a community meeting last night, and I was with school board, Commonwealth attorney, Dr. Parker, Shelley Long, Howard Gwynn, Donna Grubbs, community activist, and we were talking about issues in our city. And in walks this girl that I recognized right away, right? Graduated high school last year, Destiny Wilson, 19 years old. Destiny, if you're watching, I got your age right. I called her 18 about 2 weeks ago. I thought she was going to come at me. 19 years old, she sits down and she actively engages in the conversation about how is the best way to interact with youth, how's the best way to share conversations with youth, and I was blown away. That is not the same Destiny Wilson that we started the school year with last year. Destiny did such a great job, and I'm just so impressed with her. I thank her for her commitment to this department. I thank her for her commitment to this city. She really wants to make a difference and a change, and she is just dove headfirst in. And to see her walk into that community meeting as a teenager, I think is very, very important. I was extremely impressed with her. Jennifer, why are school resource officers unable to do their jobs as an officer outside? said school system. Jennifer, I'm not sure what you mean. We have a school resource officer in every high school and every middle school. And then in the summer, we use them in a lot of our leadership programs, a lot of interaction with youth. They're the ones that are helping out with the basketball league, they're helping out with the kickball league. We did a 2 weeks of youth leadership, YLC youth leadership camp. I thought it was a great success. We've had 2 closing ceremonies, a beginners and an advanced. So when you say they're unable to do the jobs as an officer outside of, I don't know what that means. I think we have a great school resource system, great school resource officers. We had one that retired this year, so we put out an announcement. We have, and another one who wants to transition back to patrol. So we have 2 new resource officers who are going to be joining the SRO program. I think it's 2 of the best officers I have in this department. And I knew one was really interested. I didn't know the other that was really interested in going into the school program and working with youth. So I'm very excited to have those 2 new individuals join the team. But our school resource officers do a phenomenal job. The stuff that they do in schools and the community, and their day goes well beyond what happens after school. So when you say unable to do their jobs, I'm not sure what you mean with that. They do a lot of stuff in the community and a lot of stuff in our school system, a lot of stuff with youth. They orchestrate a lot of our community walks, a lot of our community programs. They're attached to the Community Youth and Outreach Division, so I think it's one of the best assets we have in this department. I know cities that don't have SROs, and I think it's a tremendous benefit. Not only do we have them in our high schools and our middle schools, and now I'm hopefully starting to plant the seed when we make these liaisons with the elementary schools, that will open up 25, 26, 30 other officers who might be interested in that program, because I believe when you interact with youth, that you just feed off of that, and so I'm really excited. I think our SROs program is top notch, and I think that it does make a difference. I think those men and women do an outstanding job, and they pour their heart into those kids and into trying to make things better for them. And I have the utmost respect for them. And while we're here, let me just talk a little bit about the men and women in this organization. This department had 4 SWAT call-outs. We average about 10 a year, right? We had 4 last week that we dealt with a couple individuals suffering some mental illness, some violent individuals with result of robberies, even some that had shots fired. Those are stressful situations. Officers responding to those scenes, setting up crime scenes, bringing out our negotiators. The SWAT team called from whatever assignments they have, or called in the middle of the night. Saw we talked a little bit about the homicide and the police involved shooting that happened over the weekend. I could not be more impressed. I could not be more impressed with the men and women who work in this organization. They are dedicated individuals. Do we always get it right? No. Do we make mistakes? Yes, absolutely. Matter of fact, upstairs we have our use of force review board, where we have an officer, a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain, our training division, academy, and 2 citizens looking at body-worn camera footage to see, did we do it proper? Did we do it improper? Or did we do it in policy, but hey, here's some things we could do different. The men and women who work in this organization, they are outstanding, talented people. And I'm not just talking about the ones that wear a uniform and a badge. Sworn in civilian, they do an outstanding job here. I am honored every day to work with such talented people that care about this community and care about one another. We have an officer in the hospital recovering from an injury, and the individual, Macy, that he was with. I cannot tell you the number of departments that have called, the number of citizens who have called in, the churches have called. I've got citizens bringing food to the different precincts and headquarters. I saw food here looked like a cafeteria in here yesterday, just in the break room here at headquarters. And when I asked, well, who brought that in? Like, citizens just came by. Citizens just came by and dropped it off. They care. They want to know how the officer's doing. I was at the grocery store, things running through my head, and I had a citizen approach me and give me a bottle of Gatorade. And she said, I just want you to know we're thinking about you. And as soon as I walked in the grocery store, another citizen came forward and said, how's the officer doing? How's everyone doing? So I think that the community is rallying around this department. I know the department is rallying around each other in the community. I believe wholeheartedly we can make a difference. I think when we're working together and on the same page, we can do some amazing things here. I've seen it. I've seen citizens taking their neighborhoods back. I've seen crime decreasing. I'm seeing quick clearance rates on situations that happen. I'm seeing citizens get involved. when I go to community meetings and people are talking about how do we make things better collectively, stronger partnerships with our schools and human services, our faith leaders, our churches, all those things matter, right? Our business organizations. But I tell you, for the men and women who work here, I want them to know they're appreciated and they're valued and they matter to me. And I want to thank them for the work that they do for this community, right? But also for choosing the Newport News Police Department to work, and I appreciate you. Jennifer, once students are bullied and feel that school is not an avenue they can take, is there a way for a student to approach a SRO? That's a great question, Jennifer. I think that it is before school, after school. They can pass them a note. You can send an email to the police department. There's all kinds of ways to get interaction. It doesn't have to be out in front of anyone or everybody. And I understand the situations. It's funny you brought up bullying, because when I talk to some of the young adult police commissioners, they bring that up. That there are some issues with bullying. Dr. Parker addressed it last night at a community meeting that we were having about issues with bullying and ways that they're trying to address it and prevent it being on the front end. That's one of the reasons I want to get into those elementary schools and start addressing it at a very early age. But yeah, you let an SRO know that you're interested. It can be an email, it can be passing a note, him or her in the hallway. You can do it through a guidance counselor, you can do it through a principal. If you don't want the school to know about it, I understand that. But I will tell you, I know those SROs, and I know they're committed to young people. They'll get you connected to the right people. We can make a difference. Just find a way to interact with them. But it can be, there's a variety of ways, and it doesn't have to be in a large group. If you'd like to come to one of the meetings, talk to them before school, after school, send them an email. I promise you they'll get involved, and we'll try to get the right thing done. I don't want kids to go to school and feel worried about bullying or gang issues or peer pressure. I want that to be an environment where kids are going to go to learn, have fun, and enjoy that, create that atmosphere, that learning environment where people want to be in. And I know the SROs that are in those schools want to be there. So if that's an issue that you're having or experiencing, or know someone that is, you can even have a friend who might have a relationship. The SROs work a lot of the high school football games. I can't wait for football to get started. Go out to Todd Stadium. That's where I usually spend my Friday nights once the season starts, and enjoy interacting, saying hello to kids and students and faculty and staff there at schools and the football players and stuff. I got to talk to some of the players at Warwick High School the other day. They told me they're going to go undefeated this year. I met their coach. There was a run. The Boys and Girls Club had a run to raise funds. And as we were leaving, I ran into the football coach and the team there at Warwick, and I'm excited to see how they do. But I'm going to go to they have a first game coming up very, very shortly. And I look forward to going out there and seeing them play, and I wish them all the best and a great season. It's a great bunch of guys, and I enjoyed getting to talk to them a little bit. Holly, hey, how are you? Good afternoon. Thanks for joining. We're running close to the end here, but I'm glad you chimed in. I hope all is well. I hope my buddy's doing well. Please tell him that I am thinking about him, and I got to get out and see him again, or you got to get him by here. We got to go to lunch or something. But I love to see my friend and check on him again. And I hope you and your family are doing well. Looking forward to my exam. You know what? You're going to do fine. Don't worry about that 300 meters. You can do it. I will tell you this. Anybody that I've seen that is determined as you're not going to have any problem with that. Just stay focused, and you'd be a great asset, and I'd love to work with you in any capacity. And I appreciate all that you do for this community, and the difference that you made just in you and your family have made in my life since I've been here. And I appreciate what you do. You mean a lot to me. Monica, thank you for joining. So I'm trying to be cognizant of everyone's time. I don't want to. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that people could do than to turn me on their screen and listen to me for an hour. But I do think it's important to talk a little bit about what's going on in our community, talk about what's going on in the department. We've talked about our 911 ceremony coming up in September, 10 o'clock in front of City Hall. It's open to the community. I'd love to see you there. I really am excited. I think it's going to be a great event. We talked about our young adult police commissioners, our youth basketball league, our kickball league. Talked about Cover the Cruiser. That's to raise money for Special Olympics. Again, that's at 10 o'clock to 2 in the afternoon tomorrow at the Wawa there on J. Clyde Morris Boulevard. We talked a little bit about the Adopt a School program. I'm excited about that, to get an officer linked up to every school, myself included. And then we went over our crime numbers. Again, the city sits at a 10% decrease in crime. We're down in every category except one. Domestic violence continues to be an issue for us in this city, and we've seen it, just how it played out, impact it made on a community, on a family, and officers and citizens over this last weekend. And closing out, talking about the incident over the weekend, officers, I could not be more proud of how they interacted. But my heart goes out to the families who lost loved ones, right? The families of Chandra, the murder victim, on Saturday afternoon. I talked to her mother. We had a good conversation. And then also our suspect that succumbed to his injuries, Joe Muzzle. I had a conversation with his mother, and I was, she started to say some things, and she apologized for some things, but I didn't call for that. I called to let her know that just like anyone else, you lost a family member, and my heart goes out to you. And I want them both to know that they're part of our family, and if there's anything this department can do for them, any members of their family, all they have to do is call and ask. And I appreciate them taking my calls. They didn't have to do that, and I appreciate that. For Officer Stewart, that's recovering in the hospital, I think he is a hero. For Officer Kidder, I think he is a hero. I think their actions saved lives. They were called upon to do something in a very critical and stressful situation, and they did it, and they reacted, and I'm proud of them both. And for Macy, as you're recovering, I have never met a stronger woman in my life. When I got to stand at your bedside and to come and see how you were, and the first things out of your mouth, each time I've met her, each time I've interacted with her, the first thing out of her mouth is, how's Officer Stewart doing? And let me tell you, you're special. I've got to interact with both their families. I appreciate them. I'm going to go see them both later today, and I just want you both to know that I'm thinking about you. You're in our thoughts and prayers, and I can't wait to see you both back on your feet, getting around doing what you're supposed to be doing. So, and I to the community, I want to say thank you to the other jurisdictions that have offered any assistance, thoughts and prayers through social media, phone calls. I know I've gotten calls from just about all the chiefs in the area. I was actually on the phone with my past agency, and they were just calling, and that's what we do in law enforcement is we don't always get it right, but we're still human. We make mistakes, and we support each other. We support our communities, our agencies, our cities, and I just really appreciate those that have reached out and really expressed care and concern for this department and for the men and women who work here. I've got we went and talked to roll calls the next day. We talked to our dispatchers the next day, and we also went down. We took the command staff down and talked to 40 new recruits. They're in our academy as we speak, right? And I wanted them to hear it from me that they're valued, that things happen, and that we get through it. But this is a great organization. It's a great department. It's a great city. I think we have the best youth in the country. I think we have some of the best neighborhoods, and I am excited for things that are going on in Newport News and as we move forward. I want to thank all of you for you guys coming on board and sharing a little bit of time with me this afternoon. We'll do this again at 6, correct? Mm-hmm. 6 o'clock this evening. So hope to have some good conversation, and like I said, I apologize if I held anyone up too long. Jamie, look forward to seeing you lunch tomorrow. It sounds great. But please, everybody, be safe. Look out for one another, and please just remember, keep everyone in their thoughts and prayers. And we'll talk to you guys again soon. Thank you all for joining today.